Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter. Appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. Thank you for the support and being a part of our community. I want to go back to the beginning, not necessarily for me, but kind of how you start a company. And I really want to spend some time talking about the power of the name and your tagline of the business, because I don't think business today fully appreciates how important, and more importantly, how impactful the name that you select and the tagline that you select can be. And there's lots of big businesses out there that when pressed, you probably don't know what their tagline is. You know, like if I think of some of the big banks, you know, the Chases, the Bank of America, Wells Fargo, I actually can't think of what any of their taglines are. But when I start to think about some of the community banks, you know, I start to think about, you know, they're there for you, you know, they talk about local, they talk about community, and I remember, you know, kind of some of those, and you probably have some local banks in your area the same way. But if you think about some of the more impactful messages that businesses have had over the years, and you think about their name and you think about their tagline, you know, they don't just evoke interest in the product, it's a movement. It's a feeling. It's an emotion that it evokes inside of you that makes you compelled to at least know it and potentially be interested in that business. Some examples of this would be, you know, the obvious ones like just do it, Nike. Like just do it. Like go. It's a movement. It's a let's go. Let's make it happen. Or Apple, think different. Like we're different. We're doing things different. We don't want to be status quo. We don't want to be the norm. We want to think outside of the box. Or if you think about some of the insurance companies, you know, like State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. It makes you feel like, wow, they've got my back. If something goes bad, they've got me covered. Or another one, Allstate. You're in good hands with Allstate. Like it makes you feel comfortable and safe, exactly what insurance is supposed to do. And it, you know, when you think about who you're going to call, you know, you remember like a good neighbor, you know, and you think about that tagline because they've done a great job in marketing to that. You know, there's a lot of different businesses out there that have these emotions and have these things. And obviously consumer-driven brands, you know, can be easier, but, you know, that doesn't have to be, you know, consumer business brands. So like even in my own businesses, you know, this has been something that I've really thought about over the years, and sometimes it was by accident, sometimes it was, you know, thoughtful, sometimes, you know, it just happened that it was right time, right place. But I really think that people don't fully appreciate the power of the message behind your business, and not just coming up with something catchy, but actually embodying what that saying is. So like some of my early businesses, one of my first, in fact, I think it was my first business, was a company called Millennium International. And this business was, you know, bridging the gap between businesses and consumers on the web. And, you know, it was 1995-ish, I think. And at that time, you know, we were about to turn the corner on the new millennium. Everybody was talking about, you know, Y2K and all these things. And so, you know, the future was upon us. Like there was times were moving fast. You know, the World Wide Web had just come out. You know, this was way before social media. And you know, the tagline of that company was the company's future is the future. And maybe that's corny, maybe it's cheesy, but at that time, people got it. And I was some, you know, snotty 19-year-old kid selling the future of the internet, and we had hundreds of people that were buying into the dream. You know, later on, I started a company called Blue Dog, which focused on business services. You know, and at that time, people would be like, what the heck is Blue Dog? Like, it didn't mean anything, right? It was a silly name that didn't mean anything, you know, in the standpoint of a business services company. But the tagline was best friend to your business. And now, all of a sudden, a silly name like Blue Dog, which doesn't have any, you know, place in a business services company, all of a sudden started to make sense, because now it's like, oh, I get it. It's analogous to the dog being your best friend. So Blue Dog is the best friend to your business, and that business was successful, and I sold it, and it did really great. And my newest endeavor, you know, I'm going through the same exercise right now. So my latest company is a software platform for businesses called Six Pack. which if you think about it, what is that? What is six pack in the world of a business and payment software platform? Like, it doesn't mean anything. But, the tagline of the business is making business stronger. Okay, well, what's at the core of, physical fitness? It's your abs, right? Your core. And if you don't have a strong core, then the rest of your body can't get in good shape because your core isn't in good shape. And so six pack is making business stronger at the core, right? We're giving them the nucleus to have this software that they can use to run their business that ultimately becomes the centerpiece of their business becoming stronger. Wow, now all of a sudden that story, that message, that name has a purpose. And so as you think about your business, think about what are you trying to do? What's the purpose of your business? What emotion are you trying to evoke when people say, the company name or the tagline of the business? What is it that you're, compelled to do? Like, think about like Red Bull, for example. Red Bull gives you wings. Like, what does that mean? It means that they want to think of Red Bull as, this energy drink that makes you fly. Not literally, but figuratively, right? You're flying through life. You're quicker. You're able to think more clearly because you're on Red Bull. And that's the emotion that they want to evoke. And there's lots of, lots of different businesses. L'Oreal's another great example, because you're worth it. Like, wow, like now you just justified the fact that you are a higher price, makeup than what else is on the market. And now you're saying you're buying it because you're worth it. And so as you think about your own business, have a purpose, have a mission, have a emotion that you want to evoke, and have a tagline that means something. And sometimes it's hard to come up with, and it might change over time. Nike didn't start out with just do it. That's something that evolved over time. But as you become aware of what your business does, as you become aware of what your business solves, over time that message will start to come to fruition, and you can start to think about, what do I want my business to mean when somebody says it? And I just encourage everyone, as you're either in your business or you're starting a business or thinking about starting a business, think about what you're trying to do. Think about what you're trying to solve, and now try to think about, how do I put a movement? How do I put an emotion? How do I make it bigger than just what we are? Right? How do we make this a bigger movement about my business? And it could be anything. You could be a restoration company. You could be a plumber. You could be, a fast food restaurant. Everything you do has a purpose. So think about it. If I were a plumber, I'd be, unclogging the world. I have no idea. I'm not a plumber. But you can think about clever things to do. And I really think that don't underestimate the power of that emotion that you can evoke from the company name and the message, motto, or tagline behind it. Hope you find this helpful. Hope you've enjoyed tuning in. Please remember to like and comment, and most importantly, share. If you liked this, share it with 2 people. Hopefully they'll appreciate it, and we can continue to get the message out there. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. I put out 5 new episodes a week. I do it because I care. I do it because I want to impact 1 life a day and make their journey as an entrepreneur, as a career changer, as just a human being better. Thanks again. Take care.